Are you ready to break free from the doubts and limits holding you back? Welcome to Embrace Your Value, where therapy meets coaching to help you unlock your true worth and take control of your life.
Hi, I'm Kristen, a trauma therapist dedicated to helping you heal, break old patterns, and reclaim your power.
And I'm Jen, your support coach, here to show you how to set fierce boundaries, embrace self compassion, and step boldly into the life you deserve.
So, whether you're stuck in self doubt or feeling lost, know this: your value isn't up for negotiation. It's time to own it.
Every week, we tackle real issues that challenge, inspire, and empower you to live with purpose and confidence.
So, grab your favorite drink, take a deep breath, and let's get started.
Because you're not here to play small, it's time to embrace your value. Hey, welcome back. We are so glad that you came back for part two of resilience. And we just really want to kick things off by talking about resilience in relationships. So, Kristen, I know you do a lot of family therapy, so I thought this would be really good for you. How can couples or families build resilience together during tough times?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to say the number one thing to do is talk to each other, right? Just keep talking. Sometimes it can be hard. We as a nation, as a world, we've faced a lot of tough times. And when we were all quarantined, um, a lot of families had to sit together and talk, and I think that was probably one of the best things that came out of that whole time is just people actually being together, and spending time with each other and just talking. And so for me, building resilience is talking about what's bothering me. And like you said in the last episode, like maybe a reframe from somebody. It could be your spouse, or maybe you're talking to your child and they're struggling with something. I know I do this with my son is he'll be upset about something. I'll be like, well, what if you looked at it this way? How would that change how you feel about it? And he's like, oh, I never thought about that. And kids don't have the life experience that adults have. And so they're typically not going to be able to reframe in the same way unless they've just had a ton of therapy. And then, maybe they are more emotionally intelligent. But I think that's my answer really, is just like communication between the couple or within the family. I think it's the thing that that has been lost in the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Absolutely. Yes. So what are some ways to support a loved one who is struggling to find resilience?
Yeah, and maybe you have something different, but I think we kind of covered this with the last episode. So I'll just recap real quick. But if you've thought of something since then, for sure add it, right? Which is just to talk to them, reframe, direct them to resources, right? So if you don't know an answer, maybe you know someone that does, or maybe you direct them to a professional like a coach or a therapist. So that's what I think is the best thing to do is A, listen, and B, if you don't have something that you feel like or they feel like that you can give them, then offer some resources. What are your thoughts, Jen?
I love that. And I think too, sometimes just being there for them. Sometimes just being in the space with them reminds them that they're not alone. Not even, I mean, yes, we all want to do something. And so this is something I have struggled with in my life, especially over the last couple of years, is feeling helpless, like I can't help in a situation. And I really had to come to terms, it comes back to the self-awareness thing, but I had to come to terms with it's okay to just let somebody know you're there for them and not be able to do anything else and just be like, I can talk, I can listen, I can be there for you, but there is really nothing else I can do in this situation. And you never know. One of the, you never know what that'll do for somebody. We talked about this in one of the other episodes about journaling. And one of the things that I share a lot with my clients is if writing doesn't get you anywhere, if pen to paper doesn't seem to work for journaling, talk it out. There are so many apps out there, and you've got free voice notes on your phone. There are so many things out there that you can just send messages or talk it to yourself and just talk it out. That's how I figure stuff out anymore. I'm more audible. I don't do as well with the writing. To me, that's a challenge. So I'll just pull out my phone and start talking, and all of a sudden I have it figured out, and I didn't need anybody to listen to me. Although I'm usually sending somebody a message, but by the time I sent the message, I've got it figured out. And I'm like, that's what I need. I don't need them to listen. So try that too. If you're stuck and you're just like, I don't know, just start talking out loud to yourself. You don't have to even record it. Just talk. And I think you'll see that it'll make a whole world of difference.
Yes. And as a licensed therapist, talking to yourself does not make you crazy, just so we're all
Oh,
clear.
no, it's
It's
my
only if you
staff
answer
meeting.
yourself.
I tell my
No,
husband all the time, it's a staff meeting. Leave me
yeah.
alone.
No, I love that. And I think that what you were talking about earlier with feeling helpless, I think that is a big deal for both spouses. And I will say, just as a parent myself, sometimes it's really hard to watch my son struggle and know that there is like nothing I can do to help him, that I just have to sit next to him and be there and listen as much as I can. And not everybody wants you to solve their problems. Sometimes people just want you to listen. And that's one of those things when I'm talking to um specifically men, unfortunately, when their wives say, "You don't listen to me, you don't listen to me." And I'm telling these guys, I'm like, just say, "Okay, don't try to solve their problems. Just say, tell me more." Just say, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I want your give me your feelings, right? I mean, that men tend to solve problems. That's just basic. It's not that women don't. It's just that is sort of how men are. And women tend to be more emotional. Men tend to be more logical. So that men want to solve the problems, women want to talk them out, right, Jen? And so that's where that really, really tends to work well for women, and why we do when we have friendships with other women, we tend to talk out our problems. Men, not so much. They just don't very often go, "Hey, Bill, you know, my wife was whatever, whatever," and then it just doesn't happen that much. So I just think I agree, right, is just and this is with relationships. And when we say relationships, it's really like all of them, right? Friends, parenting, couples, families, all that. Definitely it all falls in together. So Jen, as a coach, what do you think about cultivating resilience in the face of career problems, setbacks, losing a job, failure, which is another thing we've talked about in previous episodes? How do you cultivate resilience in those situations?
Well, like anything, it really does come down to awareness. And I also think there's something to be said in the reframe of, why is this happening? What lesson am I supposed to be getting out of this? And knowing that everything's happening for your good, nothing's happening to you. So there was a situation, I will tell you, in our house a little over a year ago, where my husband thought he was going to lose his job. Being that he is the only, like the sole main provider, because sometimes my months fluctuate and, you know, we count on his income 100%. And um, when he came out of his office and he told me that, I was like, okay, okay. I gave him a few minutes and I said, you know, something good's going to come out of this. We're always well taken care of. There's really no reason to get antsy and edgy, and you have a really good job right now. So, number one, we knew there was a severance package, like we weren't worried there. And so I just kind of talked him down off the ledge, and we had an event we were going to that night. And so we went to the event, and he talked to a couple people about it, like he was still a little anxious. Well, the next day he went back to work and they had a meeting, a staff meeting, and I guess a couple of the girls were on there, and he said, it's going to be okay. I know that it's all going to work out. It's not going to be a big deal. And they all looked at him like, where is this coming from? And he said, well, my wife, she's the coach. And they were like, we need to have a conversation with her. But he took what I said and he just threw it back at his team. And as it turns out, it was all fine. The people who needed to find new jobs found them. And those that were still there actually just got transferred to another department. And it all worked itself out. Like it was perfectly fine. But I think coming from the coaching side of it, I would tell people, what are you supposed to get out of this? Like, what's supposed to, like, it's happening for you. What is that beautiful thing? What is that that's coming around? And when you don't panic and you don't jump off the deep end of every horrible thing, or the other thing that I will tell clients is write down every horrible thing that you think will happen. Write it down, get it out of your head. Throw that piece of paper away now. Get it gone. Because now you've exhausted those. Now let's talk about all the goodness that's going to come from this. What is it going to look like? What opportunities is it going to bring you? And that all goes back to self-awareness, to reframing, to all of that, because it's all, there's always a good reason. We just aren't always willing to look for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I was thinking the whole time you were talking, and then you said it right at the end. I was like, reframe, pivot. Like that, who hasn't faced a potential job loss or cutback or whatever in their life? And that's a big deal. Like, especially if you're like I'm the sole breadwinner in my family. And if I suddenly couldn't do therapy anymore, but we'd have a problem. So I'd have to pivot and figure out something else. Fortunately, I know lots of resources and things that I could do so I could support my family. So yeah, what a great answer. I love it. Okay, so okay, here's a good one. How can adversity be a catalyst for personal growth, do you think?
Oh gosh. So, there's so much. And again, I'm going to say this, you have to be open to finding it. I really think a lot of this comes down to how open are you and how willing are you to look inside yourself and find that. But every ounce, if you look back over your life, I think I started to say this in the last episode. I don't know that I finished my thoughts, so I'm gonna finish it on here. If you look back over your life and you think about everything that you can remember, going back as far as you can, almost all of it comes back to being resilient in one way, shape, or form. You had to try and you had to learn and you had to retry and you had to turn it and you had to change. And when you were putting blocks, round blocks and square blocks and long blocks and in the holes, you had to figure out which one went where. And eventually you learned this shape goes with this hole. But you didn't know right off the bat. You had to be resilient and keep trying. It's not like you just threw them all in the air and said, I can't do it. I'm done. I'm never going to put this puzzle together, because that's not what you did. It's not what your parents taught you to do. It's not what your teachers taught you to do. They all taught you to be resilient and to keep trying. I know my parents did. They were like, hey, you don't get to quit piano, even though your hands are really small and you can't reach the chords and you look like silly trying to do it. Yeah, I did, but I still took piano until it was like pointless and I was like, okay, this is not gonna happen. And then I was like, okay, so I'll try something different. And I did, and that worked out. So I think that's how you use resilience for personal growth because it just keeps reminding you over and over that you can do it. You have that evidence, you have those stories, and you need to use those to continue to build your resilience, to continue to grow in it.
Yeah, and I think the openness thing is a good sign that somebody's becoming more resilient.
Yeah.
You know, they're starting to see things in a different way. They're reframing for themselves or for other people. When you open up your mind, when you open up your thoughts to a wider viewpoint, right? I think we talked about this in another episode about childhood and what we were taught as children and I think that's part of it too is like that self-awareness that you say, okay, this is what I was taught. You just said this about, being taught resilience. This is what I was taught, but this is no longer serving me. Yours was about money trees. So this is no longer serving me. And now I need to broaden how I think about this thing. And so that I think is a really good sign that people are building resilience, is that they're open, their thoughts are wider, they see their future as a more open path instead of this like little narrow thing. I mean, that's how I became a therapist. I was in sales and I just like I even had like a super niche in sales. I was in transportation and logistics. And I did that for so long and I thought I'll never do anything else. And then I lost my job and I had to figure it out. So I piddled around, did a couple other little sales things, and decided to go back to school. And that was, you know, adversity that created growth, and it also created resilience.
Yeah, and it happened for you. Because had that not happened, you probably would have never gone back to school to become a therapist.
Oh, absolutely. I thought I was living the rest of my life at that company, and I would retire from there. That was
Yeah,
100% where my thought process was. It definitely happened for me,
yeah,
not to me.
yeah, exactly. And so that leads into this question that I really want to ask you. And that's, do you ever feel like there's a point where resiliency becomes harmful? Like maybe you're ignoring emotional needs or you're not being open to something else. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that maybe it's not that we're too resilient, but just that we're too narrow in how we see our resilience, right? That we can only do it like one way. And so I think that trying to push through things, and we were talking about emotions in the last episode, and trying to push through things and ignore our emotions or we're fearful for a reason. There are our body's feeling a threat. It may be a real threat, maybe a imagined threat, but our body's feeling a threat. We need to pay attention to those emotional needs that our body is telling us that our feelings are coming up because when we don't, then we can make a bad decision or make a harmful decision. You know, there's all there. I mean, I probably have a million examples from my own life, but things like getting into a bad relationship or buying a car you can't afford or something like that where you just aren't paying attention to what those emotional needs are and you're too resilient. You're saying like I can do this, I can make this, and then it does end up sort of, and again, that's that narrow like I have to, or I have to be 100%, or it has to be perfect. That's when I see it being harmful.
Yeah, I would agree absolutely. And I think that's very true. Um this was a lot. There was a lot on resiliency for you guys. I hope that you found some little nuggets that really you could take away from this and will really help you. Again, I'm going to reiterate if there's anything that you want to talk further about, please feel free to leave us a comment. Our email is listed in the show notes, so you can leave us the email. anything like that that you can do and get in touch with us, we would be more than happy to have a conversation with you and just chat further. Anything you want to highlight, Kristen, that really stands out for you?
Oh no, I feel like we covered it. Like it's just about having that inner sort of introspection, able to sort of understand your emotions, understand your emotional needs, be able to set boundaries when needed to keep you safe, to keep your emotions safe. And I think that's what resiliency is all about. It's just about, making sure that you can manage everything you need to manage in life to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I love that. That's so amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks. Thank you for being here with us today.
If today's episode hit home, don't just keep it to yourself. Subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Because everyone deserves to know their worth.
Next week, we're diving even deeper with more insights and tools to help you break free from limitations and live authentically.
Until then, keep raising your standards, owning your worth, and embracing your value.